Hi, this is GoForItRandy, and I make videos that every Christian needs to watch because I share the biblical text that proves certain things that you may have no idea about. Many people go to church on Sunday. Why are you doing that? The bottom line is this is all based on the Lord's Day, thinking that Jesus was resurrected on Sunday. And clearly, the Bible says something completely different. This is going to be biblical scriptures, about 20 of them, and they're going to prove without a shadow of a doubt that Jesus Christ was not resurrected on Sunday. So God's holy day is on Saturday, and many people are so offended that Saturday's the holy day. People need to wake up, and they need to wake up right now, today. You're going to find out some information today that for many of you is going to be a stark contrast, and it's going to expose the real truth that's hidden in the biblical scriptures. There is a secret that is so huge, not one pastor, preacher, minister, or priest is ever going to show you this information. So let's get started. Now, when Jesus was in the courtyard of the temple and the Jews and the Pharisees were harassing him, he literally told the Pharisees, "Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up." Now, he wasn't talking about the building, and a lot of the Pharisees, they were like, "What? How can this guy rebuild the temple in 3 days? It took them like 46 years to build it." He was talking about his body. Jesus' body is the temple of God. Then over in Matthew it says, "Then some of the scribes and the Pharisees answered, saying, 'Teacher, we want a sign from you.' But Jesus answered and said to them, 'An evil and adulterous generation seeks after a sign, and no sign will be given to it except the sign of Jonah. For as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the great fish, so will the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth.'" So Jesus is literally announcing that he is the Messiah, and this is the sign that he is the Messiah. By calling himself the Son of Man, they know that term means Messiah, but he's also saying that he is going to be in the heart of the earth for 3 days and 3 nights. This is the sign that proves that Jesus Christ is the Messiah. If we go over to Mark, it says, "And he began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected by the elders and chief priests and scribes and be killed, and after 3 days rise again." All right, so this is clearly showing you a pattern that Jesus Christ told the people, and he told all of his disciples and apostles that he was going to be in the earth for 3 days and 3 nights, and afterwards he would rise again. He would be resurrected. So in John, it clearly says, "In 3 days I will raise this temple up." And in Matthew, it says 3 days and 3 nights in the earth. And in Mark, it says, "After 3 days, rise again." So clearly, the theme here is that Jesus Christ made it very publicly known before he was crucified. He said he would be in the earth for 3 days and 3 nights. So there's a problem with most Christians who believe in Friday being Good Friday, and that was the day that they believe that Jesus was crucified and buried in the tomb on Friday before the Sabbath starts when sun goes down. And then on Sunday morning, they believe that Jesus Christ was risen from the dead on Sunday. That's why they call it Resurrection Sunday. So the bottom line is the whole Christian faith, they changed God's holy day from Saturday to Sunday based on this one belief that Jesus Christ was resurrected on Sunday. But there's a problem. So on a Gregorian calendar that we're used to, a new day starts at midnight. But that's not what God's calendar is. Back in Jesus' time when he walked the earth, the sunset was the beginning and the end of every day. So at sunset, the day ended and a new day started. So basically, if we go with the premise that Jesus was crucified on Friday, you see that gray line right next to the dark black line there, where on Friday there? Basically, that is the hour where the new day starts, in that gray zone. And so at sunset starts a new day. So Friday turns to Saturday, at sunset. As soon as the sun sets over the mountain and you can't see the sun anymore, you have about 30 minutes of light left in the sky. Well, that is like Twilight Zone, and that is basically the time when the new day starts. Well, guess what? There isn't enough time to fit in 3 days and 3 nights into that kind of a scenario. So the bottom line is, again, Jesus, if he was crucified on Friday, he was put in the grave late in the afternoon on Friday while the sun was still shining. So that would leave 1 day on Friday in the afternoon when Jesus was crucified and put into the grave in the afternoon, 1 night on Saturday, 1 day on Saturday, 1 night on Sunday, and a partial day at dawn when supposedly Mary was supposedly going down to the tomb at basically right around dawn to see Jesus, and he wasn't in the tomb. Now, that's basically only 2 days and 2 nights and a partial day on Sunday. That's not 3 days and 3 nights. So clearly, this is not accurate. So today, I'm going to share with you that secret. So here's the problem with most Christians. People are always learning and never able to come to the truth. And the bottom line is, when was the last time your pastor, preacher, minister, or priest ever told you the secret that's inside the Bible? All right, I'm about to reveal it to you. The bottom line is that when Jesus died on the cross, during that week, there was what's known as a double Sabbath. That's right. There was 2 Sabbaths, not just one. There was the regular weekly Sabbath that was on Saturday. It just so happens there was another Sabbath day, an annual Sabbath day that was part of Moses' law, and that happened on Thursday. And clearly, this is a double Sabbath. So there was 2 Sabbaths back to back, one on Thursday and then the normal weekly Sabbath on Saturday. But the Sabbath that was on Thursday was a high day, and that only happens once a year on that particular day, right after the Passover. That's when unleavened bread is. So this is a fortuitous moment in history where we can identify that there was literally 2 Sabbaths that week. So that changes everything. Everyone thought that Jesus was crucified just before the Sabbath, but they were thinking about the weekly Sabbath on Saturday. Most people, Christians, they think in terms of Christianity. They don't think in terms of the Israelites and what they went through in terms of Moses' law. So in Moses' law, during Passover, there's a high day the next day after Passover. That is a Sabbath day. You are not allowed to work on that day. So this fills in all of the blanks, okay? So I'm going to go through the scriptures and show you exactly how this works out. So let's go after this like a forensic scientist would and literally trace the steps of Jesus just prior and during the crucifixion. So we know what led up to the crucifixion and what happened after. So let's start over in Luke 22:1. Now the feast of unleavened bread drew near, which is called the Passover. Then came the day of unleavened bread when the Passover must be killed. All right, Jesus Christ is the Passover lamb. So Jesus Christ was the Passover lamb that had to die on the cross, shed his blood on the cross so that our sins could be forgiven and that we could be saved. So the story starts just before Passover on Tuesday, where Jesus is giving directions to the disciples on where to find the location where they were going to celebrate Passover. So in Luke 22:11 it says, "Then you shall say to the master of the house, the teacher says to you, where is the guest room where I may eat the Passover with my disciples?" And then in Luke 22:13 it says, "So they went and found it just as Jesus had said to them, and they prepared the Passover." So again, all of the disciples, or some of them, just got together on Tuesday in the afternoon just before the sunset to set up the dinner that they were going to have to celebrate Passover just before Passover. And then on Tuesday, just before the Passover, right at sunset, right after that, starts the new day, Wednesday, which was the Passover, and that is when they had the Last Supper, where Jesus sat down with the disciples and ate their dinner. Over in Luke 24:14, it says, when the hour had come, Jesus sat down and the 12 apostles with him. So this is that iconic scene that you've seen in paintings and in movies where Jesus is sitting at a large table with all 12 of his disciples on both sides of him at the table to have the Last Supper. In Luke 22:15 it says, then Jesus said to them, with fervent desire I have desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer. In other words, he's telling them he's about to have a very bad day. He's about to go on the cross and he's going to suffer tremendously and he's going to be put to death on the cross. And he's letting them know that at the Last Supper. Now, after the Passover dinner, the Last Supper, they went out to the Mount of Olives so Jesus could pray. So in Mark chapter 14, it says, after the Last Supper, Jesus prayed 3 times on the Mount of Olives. All right, so that was a very iconic moment as well. So during the night, while Jesus was praying on the Mount of Olives, guess what? Judas Iscariot betrayed him and brought basically a small army of thugs to arrest Jesus and take him into custody. So in Mark 14:46 it says, then they laid hands on Jesus and took him. And one of those who stood by drew the sword and struck the servant of the high priest and cut off his ear. And then in Mark 15 it says, and they bound Jesus, led him away, and delivered him to Pilate. So Pilate, wanting to gratify the crowd, released Barabbas to them, and he delivered Jesus after he had scourged him to be crucified. And then in Mark 15:25 it says, now it was the 3rd hour and they crucified him. Now in the Gregorian calendar, this is about 9 a.m. in the morning is when the crucifixion started, where he was hung on the cross. Now when the 6th hour had come, there was darkness over the whole land until the 9th hour. Now in our time it's about 12 noon to 3 p.m. on the Gregorian calendar. And then at the 9th hour, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, saying, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, which is translated, my God, why have you forsaken me? And in John it says, so when Jesus had received the sour wine, he said, it is finished. And bowing his head, he gave up his spirit. In other words, that's when Jesus died on the cross, and his spirit went down into the heart of earth at that moment, which was approximately, I believe, sometime around 3 p.m. in the afternoon, according to the Gregorian calendar. So in John 19:31 it says, therefore, because it was the preparation day, that the body should not remain on the cross on the Sabbath, for that Sabbath was a high day. The Jews asked Pilate that their legs might be broken and that they might be taken away. All right. This is the most important verse right here. Do you see where it says high day there in the scriptures? That's a Sabbath, all right? And on that day you cannot work. That's why they had to rush to take the bodies down so that they could put them into the tomb. So Jesus' body had to be put into the tomb on that day, on Wednesday, before the sun set on Wednesday. Because the next day on Thursday was a Sabbath day, which you couldn't work. So they were on a clock. They had to get this done before Thursday showed up. And that shows up on Wednesday when the sun goes down, when the sun sets. That starts the new day, Thursday, which is a Sabbath, which is the high day. So this was around, again, sometime around 3 p.m. in the afternoon that they had to take his body down and put it into the tomb before sunset. Now, in Mark 15:43, Joseph of Arimathea went to Pilate and asked him for the body of Jesus. And then he bought fine linen, took him down, and wrapped him in the linen. And he laid him in the tomb, which had been hewn out of rock, and rolled a stone against the door of the tomb. All right, now, did you hear that? He bought fine linen. He had Jesus taken down from the cross, took him down, and he wrapped him in fine linen, and he immediately put him into the tomb as soon as possible. By the way, just so that you know, Jesus died on the cross, and the tomb that he went into is approximately about 100 yards away from where he was nailed to the cross. And Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of James, observed where Jesus was laid. Now, on Mark 16:1, and now when the Sabbath was past, Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James, and Salome bought spices that they might come and anoint him. Then they returned and prepared spices and fragrant oils, and they rested on the Sabbath according to the commandment. Now again, there's double Sabbath on the week that Jesus was crucified. So now they got the oil, they bought it on Friday, they started putting the oil together and making fragrant spices together, and then they had all this stuff prepared and ready to go, and then they had to wait till after the Sabbath, because on the Sabbath on Saturday, they're not allowed to work either. So they had to wait till after the Sabbath on Saturday to go and anoint Jesus' body. Now on the first day of the week, very early in the morning, which would be Sunday morning, they and certain other women with them came to the tomb to bring the spices which they had prepared on Friday, remember? But they found the stone rolled away from the tomb. In other words, Jesus was resurrected already. He was already out of the tomb. Now over in Luke 24:4 it says, as they were greatly perplexed about this, behold, two men stood by them in shining garments. Okay, these were two angels that were inside the tomb. And then they said to the ladies, why do you seek the living among the dead? Jesus is not here, but is risen. All right, so the angels even told them that Jesus Christ was risen from the dead. So then the angel said, the Son of Man must be delivered into the hands of sinful men and be crucified, and the third day rise again. All right, so even Jesus said he was going to be in the ground, in the heart of the earth. In other words, down in Sheol, down where hell is. Half of the hell is where the bad people are. The other half are where the good people are waiting to be resurrected. Now, the bottom line is, there was 3 days and 3 nights inside the heart of the earth. Here, there is clearly 3 days and 3 nights that are clearly showing you that Jesus Christ was resurrected on Saturday, at the end of the day on Saturday. Why? Because this is the only formula that works as far as the 3 days and 3 nights formula goes. And Jesus is the one that said he would be inside the heart of the earth for 3 days and 3 nights. So this is the only way to explain it. Because if you think he was resurrected on Sunday, guess what? That would be a 4th day. And that just cannot be scripturally sound. He had to be raised on the 3rd day, the very end of the day, before the Sabbath ended on Saturday. So clearly, the bottom line is, Jesus could not have been resurrected on Sunday. Besides that, nowhere in the Bible does it say that he was resurrected on Sunday. So clearly, he went into the grave on Wednesday, on the Passover, before sunset, before the Sabbath started on Thursday. So on Thursday night, there's 1 night, and there's a day on Thursday. And on Friday, there's 1 night and 1 day. And then again on Saturday, there's 1 night and 1 day. And at the end of the day on Saturday, which was a Sabbath, Jesus was resurrected just before the Sabbath ended. So that would clearly be 3 days and 3 nights in the grave, down in the heart of earth, in Sheol is where Jesus was for 3 days and 3 nights. And again, the angels told you that he had to be resurrected on the 3rd day. If you wait till Sunday, you now have a 4th day. That cannot be biblically sound. It's not. This is the only possible explanation for when Jesus was resurrected. He was resurrected on the Sabbath, at the end of the Sabbath, because it's okay to do good on the Sabbath, and God certainly is not a God that would tempt you. And if he were to be resurrected on Sunday, do you realize the problem that that would cause? There would be a bunch of Christians out there that might want to change God's holy day that was written in Genesis. The 7th day, Saturday, is God's holy day. He sanctified it, called it holy, and you want to tell me that some man on earth has the authority to change God's holy day from Saturday to Sunday? What part of that makes sense to you? God would have never changed his holy day from Saturday to Sunday. Number one, why would he do that? He wrote this down in stone with his finger. The fourth commandment, to keep his Sabbath holy on Saturday, the seventh day. Why would he ever change it to Sunday? There would be no need for that. So this Lord's Day thing that a lot of Christians are believing in is a hoax, is a fantasy. It's not reality. If you call yourself a servant of God, then please share this video as far and as wide as you can send it. I want to thank everyone for watching. God bless each and every one of you.